All right. Hi, I'm Milton,
I'm Devin.
and this is Bridging the Gap. Today we wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the ban list of Commander, some of our thoughts on it, things that can come on off, right? And we had a little bit of a prerequisite discussion on this, some early considerate thoughts. Anything that you really like that you think needs to come on off early on?
Well, first, I want to talk about our namesake, Paradox Engine.
Okay?
It is a great card, 5-drop. Whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control.
Very nice.
The main reason why it was banned was because people were taking an extremely long turn with no seem to end. It was boring, and a lot of people just didn't know how to finish things. They just threw it in, and they were just stuck there fiddling, not doing anything. I can see that mostly in casual play. In more competitive play, turns will end relatively quickly.
Right. And one thing we did definitely want to mention is that we are both of the opinion that the ban list needs to be kind of geared more towards competitive players, right? When you are playing much more casually, you very much have that kind of self-power level discussion. You can kind of, with your group, decide the things that are too good, too strong, things that might kind of irritate the table. You have that social contract to kind of back you up as its own little ban list, right? However, when you're playing competitive, you don't have that sort of social contract sort of rule zero kind of talk, right? So it makes a lot of sense for the ban list to be based off of those because that's when you're going to need that governing body to look at things to say, this is where we're having problems, right? One of those things that I absolutely disagree with, though, kind of, is Paradox Engine, right? Even in competitive levels, you will absolutely see people kind of using Paradox Engine not only to run out the clock, right, but very massively to take huge incentively long turns, right? Making a Paradox Engine kind of as a engine, for lack of a better term, does give you the huge advantage of being like, I'm not wasting time. Like, I have a plan here. I'm casting spells. I'm throwing off Storm.
Getting
right?
triggers off.
Getting that
I'm tapping all my
insane
rocks.
huge trigger, right? And you do run out the time. And because it's non-deterministic, you can't shortcut it, right? You can't say something kind of like Instacron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal where they need to shortcut it, or Dockside Loops where you're bouncing it over and over again. It's a very non-deterministic line, so you are forced to consistently readjust to make actions, right? And that does come up in casual and competitive levels, right? You absolutely need to take into account that the card is just really good, right? Being able to throw out a whole bunch of rocks, untapping them, a consistent one-card Isokron Scepter Dramatic Reversal ability is a huge win, right? And yes, I'd love for it to come back, right? Not only for a namesake, because the card's just really fun, right? But it's just one of those things that, like, even if it's not just strictly power level, it just warps the game around it completely too much, right? One of those things that I know, another thing I think warps the game around that's a huge amount that we have completely legal right now is Ad Nauseam, right? Ad Nauseam is one of those strongest cards in the game, right? Arguably, potentially even the best one, full argument. And a big struggle that we have is people build entire decks around Ad Naus, but it needs to have an entire deck built around it to counter, right? And you are a very dedicated Ad Naus player, right?
Yes, I am.
You love it. It's one of those cards that, you can't really argue its efficiency in use.
Gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast is a real thing, right? And I respect it sometimes. I do completely agree that it's a card that can blow out, warp entire games, warp entire formats, as we have seen in CDH overall, right? What are your thoughts on the potential banning of Nas itself?
So, Ad Naus, in my opinion, can get banned, but since a lot of people are rotating towards hoarding Broodlord and using Appearance of the Abyss, just because hoarding Broodlord is able to do a lot more. It's able to tutor everything you need. Saw and a half with it. With Burn Offering, you get to cast Spear in the Abyss while netting you 1 mana. Most people are turning towards that instead of Ad Nauseam, just because it's cleaner, it's nicer, you get more cards for less life.
Very fair, right? And you do definitely get that nice little benefit of, because your combo starts as a creature, you get the huge ability to interact in a lot of different ways, and you do get that tutor to start you off, right? Which is not irrelevant. It's very nice to be able to say, hey, there's my tutor. If I need this is what I'm going to go for, but you have that versatility. But a huge, huge issue is that Ad Naus, even with it getting that slight little nerf, is still a huge power card, right? You see entire cards, still Turbo Ad Nas, Roger Silas, most blue form decks, right? We are still on this amazing combo card because it gives you every energy you need, it gives you ability to dig deep, and you're just rewarded for playing much more consistent decks, right? That low mana curve gives you a huge benefit in the long run, right? And that is very valuable. I definitely think that Ad Nas needs, at the very least, a nice comprehensive look from the rules committee, right? Some people may know, like, we definitely have our thoughts with the rules committee, right? I very much feel that cards need to be banned on where they're actually seeing play with and not a personal play group, right? That personal play group having lots of strong bans and that one power influence over everyone playing the game is a very big deal in my opinion. And so when we get it, we have a lot of issues with, they see this as a problem, and now we're all forced to address it as a problem, even if we don't see it as such.
That's
One
kind of
card,
like Golos.
well, very much like you have a very strong advocacy for Golos. So tell us about it.
Golos the Tyler's program is a 5-drop colorless creature where the commander identity is 5 colors. It has an activated ability of 2 colorless and then white, blue, black, red, green. Exile the top 3 cards of your library, and you're able to cast those cards without paying their mana cost. It also has another triggered ability when it enters the battlefield to get you any land from your deck and put it in the battlefield tapped. This card is banned for several reasons, mostly because of casual play. I don't see it banned for competitive reasons. Casual players can't do a lot against it because they will see Golos, it'll come out, it'll get them a very strong land that they need in the early game. If they're able to mana fix quite early, then they're just able to cast things off the top of their deck and keep it going. So it allows players to play really expensive spells just so they can get a lot of free stuff out of it off of Golos. Like having an Omniscience off the top, which will lead you into other cards like Reshape and other cards such as...
You get your nice removal
Yeah.
package. A very well-balanced deck can alter the removal and add some ramp in there and kind of ease itself into win cons that are just high-costing ones, right? Very nice, very efficient. But one of the big things we've always had is that Golos itself has never seemed such a oppressive force to the Commander community, right? I remember so many people being confused and outlandish on when this card got banned. We were like, okay, well, this seems very personal. It seems like you lost one too many games to it, and now all of a sudden we're struggling with it, right? And that definitely felt like a much more relaxed mindset of forgetting that you yourself are the person who is in charge of everyone's format and in charge of everyone's playstyle for the growing Commander community. And that definitely felt like a huge struggle, right? And I do love Golos. Back in the day, I had a Golos deck. It was really nice, really efficient. But it definitely never felt like the most oppressive thing at any table. It never felt like this is insane, this huge creature. You die to a lot of interaction, null rod effects, turning off all artifacts are really big. Dying to any creature-based locks are a really big deal. A Curse Totem and a null rod, both hitting your commander, are super relevant. The issue is a lot of more lower levels don't like playing those sort of cards. They feel it takes away from a lot of the fun, a lot of the interaction points of the game. And that's one of the things that we always wanted to address, right? Stacks in Commander needs to come as more of a casual thought process, right? It definitely needs to feel much more relaxed, much more accessible. And to that even point, limited resources a card I would love to see come back. This one I can agree can be very oppressive, right? I can absolutely agree it can be. But at the time it was banned, we had a lot less interaction points. We had a lot less ability to remove a creature, remove an enchantment. Counter spells have now encompassed to moving strictly from instant sorcery to now we see counter non-creature spell is the new norm. If it cannot hit an enchantment, you need a really good reason to play it. Limited resources, a fun card in my opinion, says when it enters the battlefield, every opponent sacrifices until they only have 5 lands, right? Every player, you're all in the same board state. But as long as it's out, if there's any more than 10 lands in play, they're all gone, right?
No one can play any more than 10 lands.
They're all gone, right? As far as they're in your hand, you might as well have them as discard fodder. Really fun, really interesting, and makes an entirely new variation to how you need to play, a very strong pivot. And it's really great. The issue is that at its time of banning, at its time of oppressiveness, we had no real way to remove enchantments. Black had no way at that point to remove enchantment full on stop. Now you have, at the very least, Feed the Swarm, which just got reprinted in Lord of the Rings. Very nice. And now you have, in every color, you have the ability to remove a permanent.
Yeah, red has Chaos Warp, green has all the enchantment removal, white has enchantment removal, and blue is starting to get there with a lot of
Blue just
bounce
says
stuff.
bounce a permanent, which is very nice. Your Alchemist Retrieval effects are very relevant, very prevalent. Anything else that you had thoughts on limited resources?
For limited resources, I feel like after saying that all the enchantment and artifact removal that we have, it could come back. You just have to decide when to play it. Of course, if you're against a core rule player, sacking half their lands is not a good idea.
One of the great things is that Stacks is very much a kind of archetype you cannot just shotgun, right? Playing out a No Rod too early can hamper not just your opponent's game plan, but your own. Playing out something like a Cursed Totem can absolutely shut yourself down as a consequence just for trying to go too quickly. Limited resources is really nice. It's not asymmetrical. It's not one-sided. Kind of similar to things we've seen now in Orcish Bowmasters. Orcish Bowmasters is an amazing stacks piece. The issue is that no one wants to look at it as such, right? And we have heard people talk about it needing to be banned, especially much more in a casual thought process. And what are your thoughts on that itself?
I feel like Orcish Bowmaster doesn't need to be banned. In casual play, I can see it being talked about in your play group. But in competitive play, there's a lot of cards that just get rid of Orcish Bowmaster.
Absolutely.
An Orcish Bowmaster gets rid of another Orcish Bowmaster. So if you think an Orcish Bowmaster is going to be a problem, then maybe you just don't have enough removal in your deck. Sometimes that is the case. We will be posting a link down in the description of 190-something cards that can remove Orcish Bowmaster for at least 2 mana.
Very nice, right? And every color does have its own specific ways of getting rid of it, right? Blue can use a dress down effect or a clone. Red can just shoot a creature with a bolt. Very nice. I always love seeing bolt have an excuse to show back up in the meta. White, I mean, any sort of path to exile effect. You have that really nice ability of reprieve, bouncing it back to your hand. Metalcraft even, really fun, really nice, really nice little shotgun piece. Black's main thing is killing a creature, and if you're going to shoot a Bowmaster with the Bowmasters, you're in a good spot, right? Being able to use someone else's abilities, counter back to them, really nice. And green, if you're in green, no, you're having a hard time anyways. But Beast Within is always there. You always have that option. Punching them really hard in the face is the green way. So
There's also a lot of fight spells in green
that
are
is
2 drops or
true.
less.
That is true.
Your Menador can kill Orcish Bowmaster at instant speed with some of those fight spells.
I do like that. That is a good point. And maybe some removable, repeatable instances of green is good. But we don't see very much mono green very often, right? And I think one of those big issues that it just struggles having win cons. And maybe something that might even help that was Biorhythm. I could definitely see a nice Biorhythm green deck coming out. Very expensive, very much a 8-drop spell in the oldest sense of the word. One of those things that said, when it comes out, or as a sorcery, each player's life total becomes the amount of creatures they control. Yes, back in the day, it was a very big issue with a board wipe coming in after a Biorhythm, right? Losing all your creatures, wiping the board, and immediately making someone lose the game because they have nothing left. Now that's a very big ask. 8 mana plus at the very least a 3 for a board wipe. You're looking at the very least Golgari with a Toxic Deluge, followed up with a Biorhythm, and you need to have your own creature sitting out. Huge ask, right? Like, what is that? On a good day, 15 mana?
Toxic Deluge, Biorhythm, that's 11. And let's say you're lucky to have a Mana Dork in hand, so 12 mana?
12 mana. That is a big ask, right? This is one of those things that even has its own card, or its own creature that is a weakened version of it, that re-nerfed in Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, right? Very nice card, very cute, but when you're looking at Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, you need to understand, this thing is seeing no CDH play, absolutely. And Biorhythm is one of those things that we absolutely think can come back. There are some decks that can cheat it out, But when you're cheating on a Biorhythm, an 8-mana spell, you're already looking at its alternatives in Ingaruk's Wake, Psych Rift, already costing less. Any of the board wipes that I actually do enjoy. There are so many different variations. You had entire win cons that are more compact, more efficient.
For 8 mana.
For 8 mana, if you're not winning the game, you sure deserve to. What are your thoughts on it?
In my opinion, Biorhythm should be unbanned. It's 8 mana, that's asking for a lot, and there's a lot of new spells that came out in the recent sets that just say no to counter non-creature spells, like Offer You Can't Refuse, Spell Pierce got reprinted.
Reprieve sounds really nice against an 8-mana spell.
One drop white, Reprieve, bounce it, now they can't cast it.
Tybalt's Trickery.
Tybalt's Trickery. There's just a lot of cards that just get around it now that it's not as much as a problem as it used to be.
Absolutely. And even the ability to have to remove everyone's creatures is always an obstacle, a hurdle. And for that, I definitely feel like we could bring back Karakas, right? Definitely one of those stronger cards. Just got reprinted in Lord of the Rings. Really nice. Love it. Personally, it's been one of the favorite cards that I once played and I didn't even know it was banned. We found that out real quick when someone complained about it. But fair enough, I understand. We play by the rules, we live by them, we die by them. But I definitely think we need a Karakas back. Instant speed, reusable removal should be a thing that more decks can access, right? White has been kind of going on this upward trend of recent, where you're getting more removal, more access to options. And I really think this would push white from now the second worst CDH color, as colloquially concerned, to now definitely one of the better two, right? Kind of taking that spot from either blue or red or black, right? Depending on how much you want to have thoughts on that today. It definitely having Karakas as reusable removal from the create someone's commander, huge benefits, right? Using that as consistently as possible, that's something I would love to see coming back. What do you think?
I only see its uses in getting rid of someone's commander. A lot of players don't play a lot of legendary creature heavy decks anymore. Corvold, for example, the deck that I favor, the only other legendary creature in there is Ragavan or Dosan. In that situation, yeah, bouncing my Dosan kind of hurts.
I would love to have a reusable Dosan land.
But if they bounce the Dosan and you're able to recast it, then it doesn't really do anything.
Fair enough.
It's a reusable removal, but it only works on legendary creatures. A lot of the times people aren't winning with legendary creatures.
To be fair, you will definitely see some Crombat coming in. A really nice removal for a Tymna deck. Really nice. Let them go to combat, let them go for it, bounce it back up. Really nice and reusable. The ability to bounce the Crom, a Tymna, some of the more nice focus commanders, Captain Sisay, Kenrith even. The ability of essentially channel land that's as repeatable is super nice, super valuable. And yes, it's got to be out. Yes, it essentially costs you 1 mana. But that reusability is something that should never be understated, right? But for that point, we should see some more legendary creatures come back. We should see some nice legendary creatures that kind of warp your game in your favor. And you have one that you absolutely love to talk about.
Yeah, but a quick tidbit. Also, I can see Karakas as more of a protection piece, if anything. If someone tries to remove your commander, you can just bounce it back to your hand. Don't have to worry about it going back to the command zone or going into exile. Or even if it's a legendary creature that you want to keep, like let's say you cast your Dosan and someone tries to Deadly Rollick it. You can bounce it back to your hand and recast it on another turn.
Very
true. So you're able to use it more. It's
got
a lot
great
more
versatility.
uses in it than it's being led to. It's not just a removal piece, it's also a protection piece.
Very good. That is true. It is very versatile. It does have that really nice utility. The ability to be protective or offensive is always nice, and I do love that. But it is one of those things that it does require a legendary creature around, and that we do not see as many of those as we'd like. We definitely need some more coming out, and your favorite of the kind is Grizzlebrand, right? Other than Golos itself, Grizzlebrand does take a special place in your heart as a black player, doesn't it?
Yeah, paying 7 life to draw 7 cards is great. It's also a 7/7 lifelink flying demon that just pays for itself.
Pay on the reanimate.
If you're able to get a card that allows you to have multiple copies, like a Mirror Box, there we go, and you give it a Mirror of Selves, Blade of Selves, Blade of Cells.
True.
You give it Blade of Cells, you hit, gain 21 life, draw 21 cards. It's a powerhouse on its own. It needs to stay banned, honestly. I want it to be unbanned, but able to entomb, reanimate it, put it in any black deck, and just draw 7 cards consistently, seeing majority, it will replace ad nause.
And I kind of think that's a good thing. I definitely think that that replacement for ad nause as a creature should be a thing that is relevant, that is a very nice option. I would love to see more alternatives to stuff like that. And I definitely think that that niche of, yeah, you need a creature, you need that reanimate, it definitely feels like one of those cards where you're going to choose one or the other. You cannot play ad nause and Grizzlebrand combo engine at the same time. And that's fair. I don't think you should need to. Grizzlebrand itself takes the cake as a hugely powerful creature, potentially one of the best in the game, and I would love to see it come back. Give Mono Black as a commander a viable strategy. Jewel Lotus, Mana Vault, Mana Crypt into a Grizzlebrand sounds really nice. Dump your entire hand, just turbo this baby out, new better Keurig. I would love to hear it. And our wrap-up topic of the day definitely wants to be that differentiation between a ban list of competitive and casual. I know we mentioned at the beginning, but it's one of those things that so many people have thoughts on, so many people have opinions on, and we'd love to hear from you guys on what those are. What do you think? What are your thoughts on its viability as 2 separate ban lists? What would that happen? What would that look like if we got that as a thing that came out tomorrow?
My thoughts on a competitive and a non-competitive ban list is that there should be a competitive ban list with all the new competitive events coming out for Commander and new competitive events coming out in the future. There should be a more dedicated list for competitive players, so that way decks can change and evolve based on what is being banned, what is being changed, what is being looked at, what's being taken care of. For casual play, though, I feel like that is up to discretion of everyone who is playing at that game. If your group likes to play with other cards, likes to play with older cards, likes to play with some of the banned cards, then you ban some other cards to where your game changes and evolves. So by default, that should be your own personal ban list. Your group shouldn't be confined to the word of other people. Your play group should be able to be free and do whatever they want to do.
Absolutely. And one thing that we've seen is that there will always be the highest power level people playing towards the ban list. If you introduce a ban list for a much more casual audience, you will see people playing at the strongest level they can under that ban list. And that is a huge issue. You'll never see that, oh, you know, we're under this ban list and we're intentionally bringing it down, and no one ever looking towards the meta of that. You've seen it not so much in Commander, but in other games, other formats, other styles. We've seen this in other formats. Once you start introducing limitations to what the deck can do, now you see people bringing the decks to the highest level of viability under those rule sets. It's the standard is always going to be weaker than a legacy argument, which is always going to be weaker than a vintage. And those things, you're playing to the highest level of power that you can under those ban lists. And that's very valid, right? You will always see that. You'll always see people pushing the envelope, going as strong as they can. So the introduction of a casual ban list now just means that we're now tiering our levels of Commander. You might take things away, you might add things, but now you are pushing on that competitive tier. But once again, we would love to hear what you all think. We have comment section just for that. Be civil, be nice. But overall, we'd love to see exactly what your guys' thoughts are. What do you guys think can be banned? What do you think should be unbanned? Love to hear it. And if we get enough of these, we'll definitely play a game on your guys' ban list. Have some fun. We'll see what you guys think, and we'll go do it, and we'll have a nice time. But overall, this has been Milton.
This is Devin.
And this is Bridging the Gap, and thank you for watching.